me, quite simply, the chief of handicappers. Good afternoon, Philip. Are you well?
I'm very well, thank you, Matt.
Are you?
Yeah, on top.
Despite all this chaos you've caused with novice chasers and things like this?
It's not me that caused it, Matt. I'm just a member of the BHA and that's it.
Well, if you're a bit player, you're not much use to us, are you?
Well,
you're saying you're not really of any importance whatsoever.
I'll do my level best.
OK, lots of things to discuss. One topic, let's just get into the one horse that's exciting us. Let's start with a horse, Enable. How good is Enable?
Well, I think the world's handicappers think that she's very good. At the moment, we've got a fourth in the list of world's leading horses that was issued last week, Longines World's Best Racehorse Rankings. And she's fourth behind Arrogate Winks and Gunrunner on 126. And I think that pretty well all of the, bar one of the world's handicappers are happy that she's at least 126. So at this stage, that's an absolutely terrific position for a three-year-old filly, a British three-year-old filly, to be 126 at this stage of the season is pretty well unheard of.
Because for those who have no idea about this, do we take the allowance in other words, in a race, technically, is she better than Gunrunner because she would get a certain amount of weight from Gunrunner?
Well, she wouldn't run on the same surface as Gunrunner, that's the first thing.
No, but hypothetically.
But hypothetically, you'd have to add whatever filly's allowance that she would get.
So let's say a minimum of 3?
A minimum of 3, arguably 4 in some jurisdictions.
So technically you could say she's 129 if she was getting £3.
What we're saying is that she could probably run if she was 126 getting 3 from Gunrunner, then all things being equal, on the correct surface, over the correct trip, we think that she'd win. What's
extraordinary is that some of these great horses, or at least the ones we thought were great, aren't great at the moment, aren't they? The likes of Arrogate, Almanzor have all been turned over. So she just destroys everything. I mean, we may not know. I mean, she could be a bit like a See the Stars. We just never know quite how good she is.
That's certainly possible. And she's won 3 Group 1s by a total distance of 15 lengths. So, you know, to have that in your locker and we're only just sort of halfway through August, and she's done that already, I think that's pretty impressive for a 3-year-old filly.
How does she compare with like the Tagrudas, the Mindings of this world? Is she right up there? I mean, am I looking at a horse who's as good as Oh So Sharp, say?
Well, I think we've got a graphic which shows the best 3-year-old fillies in the world this century, which we can hopefully have a look at
after this race,
at some point. This is obviously her winning in Ireland.
This was impressive, wasn't it? It was just her attitude.
I'm not sure what she beat in Ireland in terms of the quality of the opposition, but she was incredibly impressive there. And similarly in the Oaks, she was incredible. And I was a little bit over the top for her, and some of my colleagues around the world were saying I was, you know, too high on her after the Irish and the Epsom Oaks. So I was really pleased when she came out at Ascot and beat the older horses, and also the things that the world...
Did you send the odd email round after that?
No, I didn't want to look smug. It's not what I'd normally do.
It's funny, because you look quite smug as you're saying it. You really do look like a smug BHA handicapper.
But the thing is, it's just great that we've got a really high-quality filly. And remember that this time, you know, she's beaten the older horses and she's beaten the boys. And if you look at the list that you've got in front of you, you know, going back through, these are the top 3-year-old fillies in the world, and this is at the end of the season. This is the end of season figure, going back to Egypt Band, you know, in 2000 on 126. Remember that she was second in an arc. Right, so that's the sort of level that we're looking at. And when you look at some of the others, Zakava, Trev, these are arc winners. So she's in pretty rarefied company when you look at that situation. And remember, this is before she's running an arc. So who's to say? Let's hope she goes and runs, and I hope that she goes and runs and wins. But let's assume that she runs in the arc and runs a real big race. Who's to say that she's not going to be higher than 126? I've looked back in Britain, and the last 3-year-old filly to be rated higher was Indian Skimmer.
Wow, the great Indian Skimmer. What was that, about 85? Somewhere like that?
It wasn't Indian Skimmer.
Oh.
It was the other Henry Cecil filly from about 1996. Who was that, Matt?
Not Diminuendo, no. 1996, Light Shift?
No, we'll come back to it.
OK.
Anyway,
Do you know what it is?
It's a Henry Cecil.
Forgotten it?
No, I've just forgotten it temporarily. It's a Henry Cecil filly.
Right.
It was 1996, and she was rated 131.
Right. Okay. Really? Yeah, I was thinking that's a Reams reverse and that kind of thing. I'm going to have to look it up. Did it win the Oaks, yeah?
This filly was 131. Right, if you wait 2 seconds...
It's a nightmare that you've forgotten this. Phil, you've got one thing to do is remember the statistics. I mean, I can't help but feel other BHA handicappers would have this off the top of their... Lady Carla.
No.
Well, that was 1996. Reams are first, 1997. Ram Rumour. Love Divine. Can't be any of those. Are you sure you got the right trainer, even? Bosrasham?
Bosrasham.
Oh.
Well done, Matt.
Honestly.
So she's the highest rated
Pretty good of me to get that.
3-year-old British filly since Bosrasham.
Right. And lucky I'm here, isn't it?
And remember, Bosrasham was 131.
Can't even remember the horses.
At the end of the season, right?
Right.
And Enabler's still got 3 months to go. You know, she's probably going to run at York, possibly going to run in York. She's possibly going to run at the Arc. She's possibly going to run in the Champion Stakes. Who's to say where she's got the potential to end up? But the most important thing is let's hope that she stays in training next year.
Bill Marston doesn't care two hoots. He just says scrap handicaps. Indirectly, I imagine he's saying scrap you on the scrap heap. He says have graded races, all level weights. Win a grade F, you then run in a grade E. If you don't win after 5 races, you go back down to F. What would you say to Bill? Get rid of you. Your handicap system, which you ignore from other countries anyway. Like the Irish handicapper you disagree
the
with.
first thing to say to Bill is why? What's going wrong so far? In what way is the handicap system failing us at the moment? And I don't believe that it is failing us. I think the handicap system actually serves us pretty well. You only need to look at the finishes of lots and lots of handicaps. They have real close finishes. Most connections think they're still in with a chance till late on in the race, which is great. And the handicap system, I think, works really well.
Well, it fails. Hold on. I can't let you get away with that.
However, let's
look at Bill's idea. Well, we will in a minute.
Let's look at Bill's idea.
We will in a minute. This is my show. We will in a minute.
Okay.
Because I can't let you. It clearly fails, doesn't it?
No.
Well, hold on.
Works well.
Surely any system where I have to cheat effectively to get my horse a mark that will allow it to win a race is a failed system.
So you're saying that every horse that wins a handicap has cheated?
Did I say that?
Yes, you've implied it.
No, I didn't.
You've implied
I did not say that. What I said is
that's utter rubbish.
You've got more chance of winning a handicap with an 80 rated horse if you get it a rating of 60 with 3 duck eggs next to its name.
But how do you know it's going to be rated 80?
Because I'm quite a good trainer.
Look, I'm sorry, I totally, utterly disagree. Of course there are occasions when horses are not run on their merits, and that's up to the...
It's a handicap system where you have to lose to win, Phil Smith.
Absolutely not. Then how come horses win 3, 4 or 5 races on the bounce?
Always going to be exceptions. You know it's a handicap system where you have to lose to win.
You said
don't
most.
win until you drop.
You said most, and that's not true, because lots of horses win on their first run in a handicap.
Okay, look, I've explained why it's a failed system.
You said
you
most.
Can go back to your however.
No, you haven't explained it, and you're utterly wrong. Right? So I'm not accepting that at all. However, let's go back to Bill's system.
Yes, let's get to the however.
Okay. Let me give you a few examples. He wants level weights races across 5 or 6 bands.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And if you don't win in 5 runs, you drop. Okay. So the average number of runners in a UK handicap is 10. So statistically, most horses will win, or the average horse will win 1 every 10 runs in a handicap. Yeah? Agreed with that?
You're
happy with the maths?
Well, I have to take your word for it.
You're happy with the maths? Okay, great. And what Bill wants is if you haven't won in 5 runs, you drop a grade. So a horse that's been second, third and second and fourth, he's obviously showing good form, but he hasn't won for 5 runs, he drops down a grade. You think that's a good idea?
I think it's a very reasonable idea.
It's an absolutely ludicrous idea.
Why? It gives him a chance to win a race.
No, because
it's about winning.
No, but it's all about being competitive. And what you're basically saying is he's run really well in this grade 5 times. He now drops down a grade. What about the horses in the lower grade? They're clearly going to be disadvantaged by a horse that's been dropped in grade.
Well, they will be dropped down a grade if they're not coping with that grade.
But it's going to take them 5 runs. We'll sometimes get a horse down a grade in less than 5 runs if they're struggling.
Look.
Let's stick with Bill's idea because
it's a system that could be worked Obviously, Bill has...
Worked in what way?
In a few characters on Twitter, you're not going to have the whole system, are you?
Worked in what way? You said the system can be worked.
With your
you've just accused
system,
us of having a worked system.
I run my horse honestly.
Yes.
I am the Mr. Honest from Honest Land. And I run my horse and I finish second.
Okay.
And Phil Smith sits in his chair and he says, that's a good run, I better stop that winning next time, I'll put it up £3.
We never say that.
So I go up £3. And then I finish third and Phil Smith says, oh, he's bang there, he's running another good race, I've got to put the winner up £6, I'll have to put him up another £1. So I've got up £4 in 2 runs. Then I run fifth and you say, well, he wasn't beaten far, I think I'll keep him on that mark for the time being. I haven't even dropped a pound. And then I run 4 times and I finish second again. And yeah, I got to put the winner up 7, so he'll have to go up another £1. And then I've gone up £5 in 4 runs without winning anything.
And so what you're saying is that horses that run really well on 5 occasions, right, go up so much that they can't win. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying we've got to take a break.
William Hill sponsors coverage on At the Races.
With the Sum Up card reader, you can accept all major credit and debit cards. Like this. This. And even like this. No fixed contract. No monthly fees. Order your card reader at sumup.ie and get 50% off.
I'm here to wire your new hob, ma'am.
Not all cowboys ride horses. If they're not a registered electrical contractor, you're putting yourself at risk and they're breaking the law.
Look who's back to tell you about Quote Devil's incredible insurance deals. Yes, you're on live TV. Home and contents insurance now a steal at only €230, including accidental damage. Whoops. And you can get a quote in just 60 seconds. Car insurance starts at only €325. And we're specialists in young driver car insurance, cover for those with convictions or high-performance cars. 2,000 people every month save money on their car, van and home insurance. So...
call the Quote Devil for one hell of a quote.
Keep cool on those long summer nights with the incredible Chillmax pillow from JML. This amazing pillow pad provides luxurious comfort, helping you to a cool, relaxing night's sleep. Use Chillmax pillow on top of your regular pillow or pop it inside the pillowcase. The pressure-sensitive cooling gel instantly chills, soothes and relaxes, giving you a perfect night's sleep. Wake up feeling totally refreshed and ready for the day ahead with the Chillmax pillow from JML. Only $14.99 from selected Tesco, Deal, Super Value and Woodies.
Trying to do too many things at the same time just doesn't work very well. That's why Trivago focuses on comparing hotels and works very hard to find your ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
They say all Irelands are won on dark winter evenings. That what's earned in the mud pays out in the fresh cut grass of September. That what wins is a simple desire. An untaught instinct, and immeasurable toil. And at its very heart, all this is true. Ayr, proud sponsor of the GAA Football All-Ireland Senior Championship.
William Hill sponsors coverage on At the Races.
Welcome back. You're watching Ask the Handicap. Remember, if you want to get in touch with the show, you can. You can ask Phil Smith any question you like. Indeed, that really is the point of the show. I'd rather you did that than me waffle on. You can do it by doing the hashtag Ask the Handicapper on Twitter. Any question you like, within reason, of course. And studio@theraces.com. Anything on the email was welcome as well. And Danny, no, I'm not at the course today. I'm in the At the Races studio. Right. Phil, we were saying before the break that Bill wants to scrap handicaps. You didn't quite have the chance to finish your spiel. I was pointing out that under the current system, it's much better to hide your ability to get a reasonable handicap mark. You said trainers don't do that. And I also pointed out that horses tend to be very consistent without winning. They go up in the handicap, and that doesn't allow them to win. You were saying other things.
Okay, well, there's a number of different barriers there to that we put in the BHA put in place, right? First of all, obviously the stewards on the day can have running and riding inquiries, but perhaps another thing that maybe a lot of people are unaware of, right? When
How can you have a running and riding inquiry into a horse that's already shown no ability?
Well, let's put that to one side just for a second,
and go on
to the second part,
okay, let's ignore the main point,
which I'm responsible for.
Okay.
Right? Because the second thing that happens is that there's lots and lots of reasons why we might refuse to give a horse a rating after 3 runs. Right? For example, if a horse is left in the stalls 20 lengths on its 3 qualifying runs, we'll almost certainly refuse to give that horse a rating and make the horse run a 4th time. So there are aspects within the job of handicapping which enables us to ask a horse to run a 4th time. And sometimes it's no fault of the horse. For example, a horse is running perfectly well in a steeplechase, and it comes down 4 out. We might ask that horse to run a fourth time. So there's other things, and so I think people are too quick to say, they cheated with that, that's why they've won. Actually, people should have a jolly good look at all the qualifying runs, as my handicappers do. And if we're happy with all of the runs, we'll give a horse a rating. So I'm pretty confident, actually, that British racing under the current system is certainly as fair, if not fairer, than any other jurisdiction in the world. To go back to Bill's point about bans, I think that people will completely lose interest in it. Let's take the example of the horse that's run really well 5 times and drops a band according to Bill's system. That's going to start 1 to 3 in its race next time. No one's going to be interested in that race at all. Whereas at the moment, the one thing that happens in handicaps is that everybody has a view, everybody has an opinion and an interpretation. You have massively competitive handicaps most of the week, and particularly on Saturdays in our big races. For Bill to say we want to scrap handicaps, we want to scrap the E-ball, we want to scrap the Stewards' Cup and Air Gold Cup and races like that. I don't think anyone's going to be in favour of that. Are they, Matt?
No, I don't think they would be in favour of that, but I do think there is the facility to have some sort of change at the lower end.
Okay. So maybe that's something to look at down at the bottom end. Maybe we should have a graded racing. Now, of course, we have had that.
Yeah, but you're going to say banded, aren't you?
We've had that in the past, haven't we? And it was pretty unpopular.
Yeah, but it was so at the lower end that it was off the food chain.
So 3/4 to the lower end, or half to the lower end, or where?
Probably, well, if you've decided that horses can only run in Grade 1s with 80 and above, so maybe you could go 80 and below, you could have a different system.
I'm not sure that's going to be...
And you certainly need more exchanging your horses, don't you? More
I don't think that's going to be acceptable.
claimers where you can buy and sell.
Well, we mentioned claimers last time, right? Do you think the British owners enjoy claimers? Do you think they like the idea of losing their horse?
That's like saying, do I think British punters enjoy a tote system? And the answer to that is no.
But they enjoy the handicap system.
Because they're not used to a good tote system.
But
Whereas
British
if they went abroad, they would love... If they went to Hong Kong, they'd say, give me the tote. If they went to America, they'd love the tote system. Okay. But they don't like it over here because the returns are not what they expect.
But you've moved on to looking at tote v bookmakers, right, which is not what we were discussing. We're discussing handicaps. And people in Hong Kong, because you mentioned Hong Kong, the punters there have a bigger diet of handicaps than the punters have here, and they absolutely love them. And turnover in the last financial year in Hong Kong was higher than it's ever been before, down to handicaps.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I'm glad you agree. No, excellent. You're absolutely right.
To compare,
yes.
To suggest the tote is popular in Hong Kong because it's got handicap racing is one of the most craziest
I'm not talking about
things
the tote.
I've ever heard in my life.
I'm talking about handicaps, not the tote.
Turnover in Hong Kong is great because they don't race very often, and it's a huge gambling region.
And it's increasing.
You could run 8 claimers on every card and the turnover would still hit the roof.
I'm not sure.
Well, I am sure.
You're sure that 8 claimers...
That is the difference between us. I am sure and you're not.
Well, I go to Hong Kong every year, and every year I'm absolutely amazed.
No,
and I go racing twice, And I'm amazed there's 30,000 people sitting on the steps of the stand in Happy Valley on the Jockeys Challenge night, and they're studying through the form, they're going through form after form, all handicaps. They love it. And I think British punters love handicaps as well. And I'm sure they do.
You know as well as I do that you could churn out any sort of racing for those Hong Kong punters and they would still be sat there going through the form.
Well, let's ask your viewers now. Would they prefer Bill's system or the current system? Let's see what reply we get.
Or a little bit of both.
Or a little bit of both.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just novice chases. Someone emailed in, I can't actually find the tweet at this very minute because I've got so many tweets, it's quite hard to go through them all right in one go. But the new novice chase system, how are novice chasers going to get their ratings if they're not rated?
Okay, well, it's not going to be massively different from what we've had in the past. Right? First of all, how do, as we speak, how do horses get their chase mark? They get it from their hurdle mark. So we just transfer their hurdle mark over. If he's a 120 hurdler, he becomes a 120 chaser. So that's how they're going to get the mark. No different from before. So the question I can see is a little bit confused on that. What I think he is concerned about is what happens then if they run in a weight for age novice chase and we're not going to be allowed to move that horse if he finishes second or third or fourth? Well, is that going to make much difference to us? Hardly anything at all. So I've been keeping records. I've been doing pretty well all of the chases through the summer, and so far this summer, one placed horse has had its handicap mark increased.
I've just found the tweet, by the way. This is from Richard. It says, how will novice chasers gain a handicap mark given that they will not be rated in weight for age novice chasers?
They will be rated because they'll take their hurdle mark with them. So they come in they run in a novice chase, a weight for age novice chase. Their rating is 130, which they've inherited from their hurdle mark, and it's 130 unless they win that race. It stays on 130.
I actually think this is a good... I think everything they've done with these novice chases is good.
Good. Well, I'm really pleased that you're complimenting the BHA on one of our many initiatives.
Yeah. It surprises me, and it surprised me so much we've got to squeeze in another very quick break. We'll be back with Ask the Handicapper. Any questions you like, hashtag Ask the Handicapper after this.
William Hill sponsors coverage on At the Races.
Watch Flat TV live or TG Cahir. Worth making a song and dance about.
If you have nagging joint pain, a day can feel like weeks. Time for Voltarol Extra Strength Gel. Unlike tablets, the gel concentrates relief where it matters most, deep in the joints. Fight pain and inflammation all day long with Voltarol Extra Strength Gel. Ask your pharmacist. Voltarol, the joy of movement.
Technology is worthless if it doesn't give you an edge. The new Nissan Qashqai. Expect more. New intelligent technologies, new design.
Festival season's here. Centre Stage is in full swing and our award-winning network's got you covered. So that's your outfit taken care of. Shame we can't do more about your dance moves. Vodafone. Power to you.
Do you actually come from where you think you come from? With an Ancestry DNA kit, it's easy to find out. Anyone can do it. Just send us a saliva sample. We'll compare it with our worldwide database to find matches with unknown relatives and map your unique DNA profile. You'll see all your results online. Order your kit today at ancestry.ie.
William Hill sponsors coverage on At the Races.
Welcome back. You are watching Ask the Handicapper. We're going on for another half hour or so. Hashtag Ask the Handicapper. We've got lots of questions coming in for Phil. Let's get to, first of all, one that's just come in on the email. So just trying to find this because it's disappeared from where it was. Where's it gone? Right, Jim. Apologies, quite a complicated and not a very good system here. Bear with me. Okay. Right. His email has disappeared. It's gone. I don't know who it was from, but basically the gist of it was, because for the time being it has disappeared. Oh, there it is. It's in the delete column. Here we go. It says, hi man. I know only won yesterday at Yarmouth, so won't be rated yet, but can Phil explain how he will be able to estimate a rating for a horse that wins on debut by an easing down 4 or 5 lengths when there is very little collateral form to go on? We're talking about the John Gosden horse that won yesterday. This is Il Bromoso, who looked an extraordinary promising prospect here. So you get home, Phil. A lot of the others haven't raced. How do you rate it?
Well, this will be assessed by my colleague Graham Smith.
So already passing the buck, yeah?
Who does the 2-year-olds, right? And what he'll do in the short term is he'll try and come up with a provisional performance figure for the horses in this race. Now, your viewer is absolutely right. There's no collateral form. I think one of the horses has run once. One of the also-rans has run once before. But clearly the winner is particularly good. So we'll give these horses performance figures, but what we don't have to do is to give any of them at this stage a rating, because the system now for 2-year-olds is you have to have run 2 races before we can give you a rating, if we can. So how will he go about it? All right. Well, the only thing he can do at this stage is to look at previous runnings of this race, which is a reasonably trusted guide as to gives you a rough idea of the level of the race. Okay, so I'm just looking.
So hold on, you're looking at a previous running of this race to tell you how good this race is.
No, you're not. It's a provisional way as a starting point. Right? It's a starting point, because you haven't got anything else to go on. Otherwise, you're just plucking a figure out of the sky, aren't you? You may as well say he's 80, 90, 100, 120. Who's to say? You're right.
Hold on, if you watch the 2002 renewal of this race, you're plucking a figure out of the sky anyway.
And that's because we wouldn't watch the 2002 renewal.
Okay, which renewal would you watch?
Well, we'd look at the last 4 or 5.
And that will help you rate these horses?
Well, it'll give us a starting point. We've got to come up with something as a starting point.
Yeah, but watching other horses seems an extraordinary way to start.
Then what do you suggest?
I mean, I just can't imagine...
So what do you suggest?
I can't imagine watching a neighbour win a maiden and then thinking, well, that horse who won it in 2004 was a good horse, so this must be.
But this is our last resort. There's nothing. Okay. There's nothing else to go on.
I'll go with it for the time being.
There's nothing else to go on. Find me a horse in the race that's got measurable form. There isn't one.
Well, I can't find you a horse in the 2015 renewal either.
So let's give up. There's your alternative. Let's give up and not try. So what we will do is we will give a provisional performance figure. And then when those horses run again, you'll get more information, because will run against horses that have got collateral form. And then you can say, oh, hang on, we went with such and such a figure, and that's clearly too high, so we'll lower the level of that race. Because in time, perhaps the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th will all come out and run abysmally, and you'll clearly have got that level too high. But you have to have a starting point somewhere, and that's what handicappers throughout the world will do.
So Enable won at Newcastle this season, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the advice to trainers is that if you're thinking of running your horse in that race in 2018, don't do it, because Phil will look back at that race last year and say, oh my goodness, Enable won this last year, let's hammer this one.
No, you didn't actually listen to what I said. We'll look back at the last few years is what I said, not necessarily just the last year.
I know, obviously I was exaggerating.
You were actually twisting the argument. But
you're getting my point.
But I'm getting your point, but we've got to start somewhere. We don't have to give any of the horses in this race a rating yet, so that's absolutely fine, right? But we do have to give them a performance figure, which is, use back to the word provisional. So looking back at the previous 5 or 6 runnings of this race, right? The winner was 89. It was 77, it was 91, it was 95, it was 90. You know, they were the figures that we gave. So actually, this race has got a decent-ish history. Apart from 2 years ago, when we had a 77, they're all above 88, 89, 90, 91. So we're quite expecting that if it follows the pattern of previous years, there's a chance that this winner will be reasonably good. Right? Now, what is also...
Just your eye tell you that the chances are it's going to be reasonably good.
Well, it tells me one of 2 things. Either the winner is reasonably good, or the rest are not very good. Because if you look at the race again, you'll find that all the rest of the horses in this race were all in a heap. Because if you look back at the finishing positions...
What's your gut feeling? Are the rest bad or this horse good?
I think probably a bit of both.
Oh, what a fence sitter you are!
Well, look at all. Let's forget Il Primo Sole, right? And let's look at the distances. Let's say he didn't run in the race, and Tanseek was the winner. The distances are a head, a length, 3/4, a head, a nose, a neck, 3/4, a short head, half. Is it likely that they're all really good when they finish as close as that? Is that likely in your experience, Matt? Of
what big owners in here, though, aren't there?
No. Is it in your experience? Look at the race now. Everyone's watching this race. Are all of that lot in behind Il Primo Sole? Are they all good? I don't think they are. I think they're all probably much of a muchness and moderate, but clearly he's very good. So I think my assessment of a bit of both is absolutely spot on, actually. The most difficult job that Graham's got is deciding the margin of victory, right? Because the official judge's distance is 4.5 lengths. Would you call it 4.5? I'm not saying, that's the official distance, but in terms of value, in terms of your interpretation, what would you have called that winning distance if you're trying to come up with performance figures? 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12? That's Graham's most difficult job, to decide his interpretation of the margin of victory, because that's a really difficult race to come up with a figure.
I think he could have won by at least 3 lengths more than he did. At least 3.
So you'd call it, if you join our team as an official 2-year-old handicapper, you're going to call it 7.5 lengths.
If I did that, would I have to answer to you?
Well, the interesting thing is 7.5 lengths over 7 furlongs would be £15-ish. Okay?
I think it would have been at least 7.5.
Oh, so now you're thinking maybe 8?
Possibly. I don't have the handicap at this stage.
Would 9 or 10? But you do have to come up with a performance figure. And the performance figure is a fluid position. The performance figure, Graham will put a performance figure down here. Let's say he puts it, 92, let's say, right? And he calls Tanseek 74, 75, 76, something in that region there, right? The thing that Graham will then do over the next month or so is monitor all of those horses. People think that you take 30 seconds to assess a race. You don't. This race will be done quite quickly, but he'll be looking back at this race over and over and over again over the next month to see how Tanseek, Jers, Cracker Factory, Turquoise Bay, Gambari, all the placed horses, how they get on in all of the races over the next few weeks. And time will show whether they're any good or not. I suspect that some of those will be okay, but the majority will be moderate. That's my opinion.
You've already changed your tune? originally you said the winner was okay, but you don't think
no,
the
I
rest.
think the
Now
winner-
you're saying some of the others.
No,
might
I
be
said
okay
a
as
bit
well.
of both, and I think when I said a bit of both, I think the winner is very good.
But the rest are much the muches.
I think the rest are certainly.
Time will tell. We'll revisit this. We'll play this
Muchness.
back in a few weeks' time.
I think the rest are much of a muchness.
We will play it back in a few weeks' time and see if you're right or you're wrong when the second, third, fourth, and fifth will win next time out. Having
the second,
said that,
third, fourth, and fifth will win next time. Okay,
Nope.
we heard it here first.
No, I never said that.
Oh, I thought you did.
Nope. Having said that, to be fair to you,
Okay.
one or two people have suggested that the Queen's Vase form wouldn't be great this season.
You did, yeah.
Yeah. And I am a massive fan of Stradivarius. I think he's a really good horse. I think he'll win the Ledger.
Well,
Sponsored by William Hill.
I think when we had our discussion last month, I think the.
Don't sound too smug here.
No, I'm going to sound.
No
smug.
one likes
I
a
think
smug BHA.
Where we differed was you were looking the race
at the time.
At that time.
Poor.
And I agree with you. It didn't look. It was the
It
fifth.
looked terrible.
After the last 6 years, because you remember we just talked about going back over the last 6 years. We like to compare historically. Of the last 6 years, it was only the fifth best or the next to worst race. But I did say at the time that let's see what happens.
You did.
You know, over a period of
Sat on the
time.
fence, you did.
Okay. And of course, what's happened subsequently is obviously Stradivarius has gone on and won the Goodwood Cup. The sixth, I think, was third in the Goodwood Cup. The fourth has subsequently won as well. So it's
we get the
looking a
picture.
bit better now. The second, what we'd like to see more is the second hasn't run subsequently, right? And the third has disappointed subsequently, right? But overall, you'd say it's looking
okay.
it's looking
And Stradivarius
okay.
is really good.
And of course, the point that you were making was, is this a Group 2? Well, certainly if Stradivarius, who I think is now on 116, if we've got Stradivarius working in there for us in terms of at the end of year ratings, and the you know we won't be doing too badly.
Yeah, so you're judging a whole race on one
But
horse.
the most important thing for the future of the race, and it won't be downgraded for a year anyway, but we look at 3 years, right? The most important thing for the figures for the race this year is the second horse when it comes out and runs next time. The second horse is the key.
Harry Tregonning is on Twitter. He's a sports broadcaster, I think, abroad. He says, you were talking about handicaps and how, great they were. He says, surely it's not down to the handicapper to tell us which races we like best. Surely group races are the best of you.
If you think that, I love group races, right? But what I'm saying is I think that people prefer handicaps to claimers. I think people prefer handicaps to graded races.
Do American punters prefer American handicaps to American claimers?
Well, they hardly have any handicaps in
we
America.
hardly have any claimers.
Absolutely. But the difference is they have claimers for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, right? And if we had claimers for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, maybe people's attitudes would change. But is that likely?
It's not likely.
It's not likely.
No.
So they won't change.
Okay. We're going to take one more short break. We'll be back with Ask the Handicapper after this. And we're going to find out about Millie's Kiss. We'll be back.
William Hill sponsors coverage on At the Races.
Walking down the street, girl, I just some meat. By the light of the moon, won't you come out tonight?
Now that I have a minute, let's see what Electric Ireland Rewards has for me today. Oh, tickets to Electric Picnic. Yes, please.
Sign up and enter today at electricirelandrewards.ie for the chance to win Electric Picnic tickets.
Trying to do too many things at the same time just doesn't work very well. That's why Trivago focuses on comparing hotels and works very hard to find your ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
Listerine Total Care gives you effective gum protection. It works even below the gum line, and strong teeth start with healthy gums. Maybe that's why Listerine users are more likely to be bold with food, tackling tough dishes, and crunchy cuisine. For effective gum protection, use Listerine Total Care. Bring out the bold.
Mince. Irish families buy more of it than any other meat. Probably because half of it never gets in their mouths. That's why Irish mince is one of the 800 products that we've discovered matter most to Irish families, and that you won't pay more for when you shop at Tesco. Shampoo, incidentally, is another one.
They say all Irelands are won on dark winter evenings. That what's earned in the mud pays out in the fresh cut grass of September. That what wins is a simple desire. An untaught instinct. And immeasurable toil. And at its very heart, all this is true. Ayr, proud sponsor of the GAA Football All-Ireland Senior Championship.
William Hill sponsors coverage on At the Races.
Now we're going to turn the clock back to glorious Goodwood. There was a horse there called Billiston Brook who looked as though it was going to finish nearer last than first, about a furlong out, and then went and won. And Paul Richards is saying to you, Phil, after an unbelievable win like that, where a horse effectively looks that it's going to be nowhere and suddenly just goes and wins, how do you go about reassessing Billiston Brook, who won off a BHA rating of 87 that day, having been beaten when rated 87, a listed race the time before?
Okay. Well, he was beaten the time before. The time before is the key race. Okay, so he was third at Sandown on the 27th of July, and Graham had him performing to a figure of 96. But because of the time lag involved, the difference, you know, obviously the Sandown race, there was no time to reassess him, right? He ran actually at Goodwood off 87 due to go to 96, right? So, you know, the world and his wife were pretty well aware of that. Hence, in what looked to be a very competitive handicap, the horse started at 100 to 30 favourite in a 14-runner race. Now, arithmetically, right, Graham only had him performing to 90 in the Goodwood handicap because obviously the horse was very badly hampered and just managed to get up. So he showed Graham a number of things. One, that he's a pretty good battler and managed to win the race despite things not going against him. But he actually showed him that his figure of 96 was spot on, because he's only performed to 90 in this race, but encountered trouble after trouble after trouble, interference, etc., not clear run. And so what Graham has done is he's put the second up £2. He's given Billiston Brook a performance figure of £3 more than the mark he ran off, because he's only won by such a short distance, but he's allowed his handicap mark to carry on flowing through to the Sandown figure. So if Billiston Brook runs against Cheeky Rascal next time, right, Billiston Brook will be £9 higher, Cheeky Rascal will be £2 higher, and as a result, Billiston Brook's got to give him £7. Now, if you just look at that, £7 for a nose or a short head looks absolutely ridiculous, but of course you've got to take the Sandown run into consideration. You've got to take the not clear run on 2 occasions, stopped in his run twice here. And actually, I think most people would think that that's a pretty good puzzle that Graham has set there, because he said, well, look, I know jolly well, and everybody will know that giving him a £1 pull is ridiculous, so I'll use the Sandown race to help me, and he's now going to give him a £7 pull. So we were lucky, shall we say, there, that we didn't have to come and dream up a figure, because we already had the Sandown figure in the can from a few days earlier to guide us there. So Graham had some good luck and some bad luck in the race, in effect, to help him come up with a new figure. What would have been very difficult is if he'd never run at Sandown, And then he's got to decide by how much is he going to go up above 90 just for the Goodwood run. And then it's up to his own personal experience. He's been a race watcher for 15 years, time form first, and then us. So he's pretty experienced. He'd come up with a figure he thought was fair to everybody.
Yeah, OK. I mean, that was an extraordinary run, wasn't it? The great thing about that run is the handicapping might be right, but the running style of the horse might be the significant thing, because at Sandown he hit the front going well, got picked up. On this occasion, the change of tactics
may have helped him. Being stopped in his run twice may well have helped him show what he can do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Extraordinary performance there. Tell me, Phil, horses at the moment that we're sort of hoping to enjoy. I mean, let's just quickly talk about next week. Churchill, Barney Roy, Ulysses. I mean, is Churchill in the Caravaggio mould at the moment, that he promised much, but now he's got to deliver, otherwise he's going to go down as disappointing rather than a hero?
Well, the interesting thing about Churchill is the change in trip. You know, will that be the making of the horse?
Like it was Barney, you could argue.
Will that be the making of the horse, or will it be
the end?
Something different, right? Just from looking at Barney and Ulysses, why should Barney beat Ulysses? I don't see any reason why he should. You know, I think Ulysses is the better horse of the two, over 10 furlongs.
Some will argue that Barney Roy was coming back at Ulysses in the Eclipse and would have won in another strike.
Yeah, and I think that Ulysses is a tricky old horse to ride. I think he's a tester for the jockey, in that he travels supremely through the race and he doesn't perhaps tend to find quite as much as you might think. I thought, going back to the King George, when Ulysses was running the 2.5 out coming into the home straight, I thought Ulysses was going like the winner, but he clearly didn't quite get home on the ground. Now, does he stay a 1.5 miles? Well, he showed last year in the Gordon Stakes that he does stay a 1.5 miles, but maybe at the top level, in Group 1 level, given the ground at Ascot, maybe he's arguably a bit better at 10 on better ground. So I'm a big Ulysses fan. I really liked the horse last year. So just from a personal point of view, I'm not so sure whether Barney will beat Ulysses. And of course, the other thing to consider is that since the Eclipse, the weight for age scale will have changed. So it's going to be a harder task for Barney, given the changes in the weight for age scale between the first Saturday in July and next week, which is the second half of August. So there will have been changes in the weight for age scale. So there's an assumption with the weight for age scale, as I'm sure you know, Matt, that Barney will have made normal improvement in that time. Well, my question is, has he?
Should we have one day, obviously Champions Day would be the obvious one, where every horse in a group race runs off the same weight?
Why?
So we know who's best.
Well, obviously the weight for age scale is there to compensate for immaturity, and it enables us to do something that, remember, last month you were mad keen on having the sprinters running against each other, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 8-year-olds, everything together.
So Lady Aurelia gets £3 from Batash,
so let's just go back to that. The weight for age scale, by and large, has stood the test of time. There's been a few little tweaks here and there, but by and large it works pretty well. If there was no weight for age scale, then I'm sure that there would be people bashing on the BHA office's door to have more 3-year-old only races. So I think the weight for age scale does, by and large, a pretty decent job, and we've made some adjustments this year, and we'll see how that pans out. And interestingly, the change in the weight for age scale may have been the difference between Barney Roy winning and not winning the Eclipse, because a previous year he'd have had a different weight for age allocation than this year.
Are you a Lady Aurelia or Batash man? It's a simple answer with the one, you know.
With the fillies allowance, Lady Aurelia.
Yeah, completely out sprint. And as far as 2-year-olds are concerned, we saw Sioux Nation against Beckford on ATR the other day. Beckford, you could argue, not unlucky as such, but could have won. There wasn't much between them. Do we get the idea that they're decent but without being superstars?
That was my personal opinion just watching it. I'll just call up what Graham's got. He's got Sioux Nation. He's given Sioux Nation 115. That's his 6th run, Sioux Nation, and the great thing is he's going in the right direction. He's given Beckford 113 performance figure. Sorry, it wasn't even Graham, it was Chris, my colleague Chris Nash, did that race. We've got Beckford doing 113 as his previous run in the Curragh. We've got him doing 113 this time. We've got Sioux Nation 115. Sioux Nation, 115, he's his 6th run. It'd be interesting to see how much more improvement there is in him.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Moore spoke of him very well afterwards, said he was in the mould of Caravaggio. Let's hope not in some ways now. But
no, the jury's out on Caravaggio. I remember saying here last time that I still think he's going to be better over further. It's interesting that they ran him over 6.5 furlongs at Deauville, which didn't really work out for other reasons other than the trip. But I thought the interesting thing about Caravaggio, when you compare his Ascot run and the Newmarket run, the Newmarket run was run at a messy race, messy pace, and Newmarket is much more of a speed course than Ascot. Ascot 6 furlongs is a really stiff 6 furlongs. It suited Caravaggio. I remember last time we had a debate, would he have won at 5, and you were confident that he would have won at 5 furlongs.
Yes, he would.
I'm not so sure about that. I think he needed all of the 6 furlongs at Ascot, and it showed at Newmarket that he got beat over in a race that really wasn't run to suit. The jury's out on Caravaggio at the minute, and we'll see where we go with him.
And we've only got a couple of minutes left, but the old chestnut is always best. Mike Newell, Irish for UK handicapping. Is it time to have one handicap system and not 2, Philip? Well, we do have one, don't you? You just choose your own and ignore theirs.
We have one system, and it's our system.
Yeah.
And
so you ignore them.
And when UK horses go to Ireland, we have one system, and it's the Irish system. Where's the problem?
Yeah. Oh, this is a good one. Shane Harris. Why don't bottom weights win in handicaps anymore? They used to win big prices in the 80s, 90s. Handicaps. This is a good question. We've only got about a minute left, but you have compressed it so much now. There's so little weight between top and bottom weight. I mean, you've ruined your own handicap system.
I don't agree with that, but I think more and more what I'm finding in handicapping, that a pound or two here and there, people used to always say, you'd see on a Saturday morning in the paper, oh, he's got top weight, he can't possibly win. I think people have changed from that.
Well, top weights win all the time, don't they? They're massively favoured under your system, the top weight.
I think what I believe is it's the class of the race is more important for a horse. We have lots of horses where they win off 120 chaser, they go to 125, we put them there, they win off 125 in a 0 to 125, we go to 130, they run in a 0 to 145, they get lapped because they're out of their depth.
Just in a word though, under your system, which you have personally created, you've got much more chance of winning races off top weights than bottom weights. Yes or no?
No, all horses have an equal chance.
Can you look at it in the camera and say that without smiling?
We hope that all horses
have an equal chance. You've added in we hope.
That's what we're...
Do they or don't they?
They do.
It is an incredible bombshell to end the show with. Phil Smith knows as well as I do, if you've got a top weight in a handicap, you've got a lot more chance. You know that.